In this video, I'm going to show you how to get the cheapest and easiest warbands for order in Warcry. I really like Warcry, Age of Sigmar Warcry. It is a fun kind of skirmish style game within the world of Age of Sigmar, from Games Workshop, and you are generally running with no more than about 15 models in your warband and playing on a small board, kind of like Kill Team, same 22 by 30. It's a great fun game, but it's not, because you can't get the starter box anymore, unless maybe you can be lucky and find it at a local game store. You can't just buy a box and get into the game as easily as you used to be able to. There's the Catacombs box that you could get, but it's not quite the same thing. And if you don't want to spend that much to get started, you want to spend, say, less and make it easier, then buy yourself the core book, which I think is about $40 American, and then you're going to want to pick up one of these new books that they just released at the end of 2020. This one's for Order, but they also make one for Chaos, Destruction, and Death, the four different Grand Alliances, as they're known as. Now, I just did a video about how to build inexpensive and easy warbands for Chaos. You can watch that. Ciao. But I had a lot of people in the comments who were like, hey, when are you going to do the next one? What about Order? I heard about Order a lot. It's one of the thicker ones. Chaos and Order are both the thick books. Destruction and Death are kind of a bit thinner. And there is a lot in here. It took me a good long time to go through all of these and try to figure out what's the cheapest / easiest things, ways you can get into the game with a warband that is legal, has a leader, has some fighters, all that kind of stuff, and get to playing. Now, I keep saying easiest. Cheapest is pretty obvious, but easiest is also kind of important. Easiest means if you could buy one box and be done, that's pretty easy. Cheap, still more important, but easy is also important. The other thing that you're going to hear from me probably time and time again as I run through all of these following notes is it's about the circle and the arrow. It is the evil rune of the circle and the arrow. If you look on Games Workshop's site, there's a lot of circle and arrow going on right now. What that little icon means is that this is only currently available from the web store. You can't get it in stores. Now, you can get it in stores if the store already had it in stock, but it is currently not in a normal distribution chain to show up at normal stores. So I'm trying to stay away from those particular products. Some of those products might be a little cheaper and easier to get into in Order, but if it's only available through the website, you're going to have a hard time finding it in your local stores unless you're real lucky. So I've kind of, because of the easy part, I sort of steered into everything that doesn't have the evil circle and the arrow rune, as foretold in the prophecies. So we'll start with Cities of Sigmar, because it's the first one the GW lists on their website when you click on, I want to see all the Order stuff, and they start with Cities of Sigmar. When Warcry was first launched, you could only play really with the armies that came out directly for Warcry. There were the six different, the Unmade and the Iron Golems and etc. And then they started adding these card sets so that you could use normal Age of Sigmar stuff. One of the card sets they didn't add was Cities of Sigmar. You could not play. You could play with your normal, your Khorne dudes, and you could play with Nurgle people and the Skaven rats and all that jazz. They had tons and tons of different cards out there for available, but there was nothing for Cities of Sigmar. So that was kind of a bummer, But then probably sometime in mid-2020, they came out with a White Dwarf, and they're like, here's some Cities of Sigmar that you can now use in Warcry. Why don't you do that then and stop bugging us? I'm assuming they're probably getting a lot of complaints. And so they came out with some Cities of Sigmar stuff, which was cool. I went out and I bought some Free Guild great swords and stuff. It was mostly Free Guild stuff. There wasn't a lot to that list. Then at the end of 2020, they came out with this series of books, right? And in the Sentinels of Order, which is the Order book, the very first section, of course, is, Cities of Sigmar. And they added more models. They added more stat cards to Cities of Sigmar. They at least tripled it. There are so many now in here. It's just astounding. And so it's not just Free Guild anymore. It's all kinds of stuff. And I've gone through, unfortunately, all of them. And I would say that the cheapest It's elves. So it's the Shadow Warriors. And the Shadow Warriors, if you buy that box, you get 10 models for $50 American. You're going to get yourself a Shadow Walker who becomes your leader, and you get 9 Shadow Warriors. And that will do you pretty well. You'll get about 960 points if you add that all up, which is just near 1,000. So that's not too bad for a list. I'll be honest. The Shadow Warriors, I'm not a big elf fan, as I mentioned. And other than the cone head helmets and stuff like that, they're not bad looking, even for a person who generally kind of doesn't like, elves. But yeah, you can run those. It's the same box as the Sisters of the Watch, so you could run them, I guess, that way too. But the Sisters of the Watch is, I think, a little bit more per unit. I think it's 105 according to my notes versus 90 points for the Shadow Warriors. So it's a situation of like, you could throw some of them, you could make some of them Sisters of the Watch and the other one Shadow Warriors. It's up to you. You've got some variability in that box, but that box, $50, 10 models, that's your cheapest and easiest way currently to get into Cities of Sigmar. Everything else, not everything, most everything else in that list in Cities of Sigmar is got the dreaded circle arrow icon. So hopefully later on they'll start adding new stuff, but for right now, that's your choice. Daughters of Cain, who honestly, when I first saw them, I'm like, oh, that's a cool Chaos army, but they're not Chaos, they're Order, even though they're basically snake people. What do I know? Anyway, Daughters of Cain, there's really only 2 choices, and actually there's really only 1 choice. So there is a Warcry box that is called the Cainite Shadow Stalkers, and it is $55, and you can make yourself a great army list out of that if you can find it, because it is currently temporarily out of stock online. Now, temporarily out of stock online leads me to believe they'll bring it back again, but they may not. Check your local store. They may have it sitting on a shelf. You don't know. I mean, it could happen. That happens. I find stuff that is out of stock on the website over at Games Workshop. I find it at my local shops all the time. My local shops have still got Indominus on the shelves. So, it's definitely something that you should maybe take the time to go into your local shop, poke your head on, put on your mask, go in there and look around. Maybe you'll be able to find these Cainite or Canaanite? Cainite? I think it's Cainite. Shadow Stalkers. It's a cool looking set. But since that's not available online, you may not be able to find it in stores and you can't get your store to order it, probably. Sisters of Slaughter is your choice. Now, Sisters of Slaughter is a $60 box, so it's about $5 more. But you're going to get yourself a Handmaiden as your leader, and then you have 9 Sisters of Slaughter with the whip and the buckler, and that will bring you to 915 points. So that's pretty close. It's not quite as close as you'd like. But Sisters of Slaughter, again, one of those boxes that can be built either way. Those models can also be made as Witch Elves, but Witch Elves are fewer points, so you would be even further away from the 1,000 points you're trying to get for your list. So again, you're looking at one box that is in stock, generally, and costs $60. Build yourself a total of 10 people, 1 leader, 9 regulars, and you've got yourself some crazy Daughters of Cain to get out there and do some havoc with. Fire Slayers are mostly naked, at least it seems that way to me. I don't know a ton about dwarves in Age of Sigmar. I've not built or ever painted a single one of them as it comes out. But that being said, Fire Slayers, mostly naked. Also, Vulkite Berserkers are pretty much your only choice. Like, they are the basically only choice for regular kind of like line troops. So they're your best choice in this situation. $60 American, again, gets you a box of 10. You can build yourself a Carl, and you can give him, I guess, a couple of different weapons depending on how it goes, but it's up to you. And then you get 9 Vulkite Berserkers, and you can easily hit up to 1,000 points. You might even end up with only 9 models, a leader and 8 people, but it depends on how you want to kit them out. But a lot of these boxes are like, yeah, I can't even barely hit 1,000 points. This one's not that box. This one, you can hit 1,000 points, and you get yourself a little bit of variability. A bunch of little naked dudes running around with long beards, hitting whomever with generally axes. They seem to be pretty much into the axes. So your Vulkite Berserkers are pretty much your main choice if you want to get into Warcry with some short little dudes. When I first heard about the Ideneth Deepkin, I was very excited because I thought they were going to be fish people. They're not. They're you've probably heard me say this before. They're basically just wet elves, and I'm not particularly into them. They're cool, sort of. I like them better than the cow elves, which we'll get to in a while, but they do give you some different choices, honestly. Sort of. Not really. It's not great. So far, everybody else, you've been able to hit about the $50 to $60 mark. Idoneth Deepkin, it's going to cost you a bit more. You're going to need yourself a box of Namarti Reavers, which are pretty cool, and you get an icon bearer, so that becomes your potential leader, and then you get 8 Reavers, regular old Reavers, and that costs $50 American. The issue is you don't have enough points. If you build one leader and all those Reavers, you're getting about 810 points max, which is not 1,000, as it turns out. So you're going to then need to add some sort of leader to your group, probably, is the best bet. So you've got the Isharan Soul Scryer or the Isharan Tidecaster, $30 each. Those are kind of your two choices. There's also the Isharan Soul Render, but again, the evil circle arrow rune is in play for that one. So if you can find the Soul Render in your local shop sitting on a peg someplace, then great, snatch it up if that's what you want to do. But otherwise, you're going to basically need to buy one of those like $30 little kind of hero boxes, little clamshell, and then a $50 box of 10 wet elves. I said before that I've never painted or built any dwarves, and I haven't. But if I was going to, the ones I would probably do would be our next people, the Caradon Overlords. They are, I don't know, the Sky Dwarves are just super cool to me. For some reason, and it doesn't make any sense, it kind of reminds me of the movie Time Bandits a little bit. Not that much, but a little bit. Your best choice for that is to, unfortunately, again, have to buy 2 things. So we're not looking at like around $50 or $60. We're looking a little bit over, looking towards about maybe $85. So the Arcanaut Company, which is going to have a captain in it, and then 9 privateers is $50 American, and it's not enough points. It's not close enough to 1,000 points. So then your currently the best situation, because of the way that the website availability and stuff is, and again, you may be better off, going to your local shop. But if you were just hitting the website and looking at those quantities there, the Endrin Master with Dirigible Suit is your probably HQ unit that you're going to pick up. That's going to cost $35. Here's the issue. He's like 300 points. So you went from being like, I bought this box and I can't make 1,000 points, now having to add a whole bunch of 300 point one dude single, and now you're way over. So you have to probably pull away some of those other dwarves. So, those are your choices. Other good options, if you can find them, and again, not on the website, because, or you can get them on the little circle arrow means you can only get them from the website. So if you want to go that road, you can, but you won't be able to find them in your local store, probably. The Aetheric Navigator, $30. The Arcanaut Admiral, $30, and the Aether Chemist, $30. Any one of those 3 could be your leader if you can find them. Again, like I said, they all got the little circle arrow. But if you can find one of those, then that could be your leader, and then you could use your captain as your hero, and then you could use your privateers. Or you could skip the captain altogether. It's totally up to you how you want to build it. But the Arcanaut Company, they're again kind of the line troops for this army, and so they are the box that you kind of need to get, and then you need to get something else like that. Or, for $10 more than the 50 plus 35, you could get yourself the Start Collecting box. And then you would get everything you kind of need to build yourself a cool list. It wouldn't have really Arcanite Company, but it would have a bunch of other cool guys in there. The downside is you get a vehicle that you can't use. So you could flip it on eBay, I suppose, or maybe sell it to a friend or something like that. And then maybe that'll help you recoup your money, get you back down underneath the $85. But you've got those 2 choices, either the Start Collecting box, again, a different loadout generally than just buying the Arcanaut Company and some sort of HQ unit. But, those are your choices. Lumineth Realm Lords. I'm not even a big fan of the name. Lumineth is fine. That's fine. But calling yourself Realm Lords, it's just kind of... Anyway, your main choice in this situation is going to go with the Vanari Oralen Wardens. Anyway, you get a High Warden. Oh, I bet he is. And you get 9 other Wardens, and that's $60. That's not enough. That's not enough points. So you're going to want to start there. Again, pretty much decent kind of line troop. You start there, buy a box of those folks. And then the Senari Cathalar. Sure, as one does. She's that lady that's kind of standing on the rocks. She forgot her shoes or whatever. And she can be your leader because she's like 121 point or 125 points and whatever. And she's $30. So now you're looking at $90 to get a bunch of pointy elves all up in your Warcry. you'd have basically 11 models, which, 15 is your limit, so that's not too bad. But yeah, that's your option. If you want to go pointy elves, in the Warcry, you go $90, and I would tell you, well, oh gosh, $95, you get the Start Collecting box. But there is no Start Collecting box that I've seen at all on the website for Lumineth. Maybe there will be eventually, but there's not one right now, so you get what you get. Last time when I did this for Chaos, the cheapest overall setup was Skaven, and it was like a $38 box of relatively old models, but a whole bunch of them, and cool little rat dudes running around and stuff like that. And you could easily make like a group of 10 to 15 of them and run them out there, have enough points, have variations in weapons and all that kind of stuff. $38. This time, another, frankly, kind of older box, and also a whole bunch of little tiny people running around. Not so much people as lizards. In Seraphon, you buy yourself a box of skinks. $38 and you are done. You get yourself a skink alpha, who is your boss, your leader, and then you have 14 other skinks, because 15 is the max for Warcry as far as how many you can have in a single list. And even if you go with the cheapest option of the skinks, because they've got lots of different weapon loadouts and things like that, even if you go with the cheapest option, that alpha and the cheap option, you're going to get to 970 for points. So if you wanted to go with some of the slightly more expensive weapon options, then you could probably dial back on the number of skinks that you have in your army, and now you just have a skink tide to go up against your opponents with in Warcry. And I think that's a lot of fun. I want to do that myself. After making this video last time for Chaos, I went out and bought a box of clan rats, and I've built, I think, 9 or 10 of them at this point. But I've got a bunch of other projects that are kind of in front of right now of that. This makes me want to buy a box of skinks now too, because I don't know. I've always wanted to paint lizard men, and I've never have, and now I could paint 15-ish of them, and then and have myself a nice little fun Warcry, something thematic, and it'd be like $38. Stormcast Eternals. Maybe you've heard of them. They're on the cover. Yes, they are. And they're on the cover of most things in Age of Sigmar, as it turns out. They're, a lot of people are unhappy sometimes with the Storm Bros, because they feel like they're the kind of poster children from Age of Sigmar. You got your Ultramarine, Space Marines on the 40k side, and a lot of people think it's the Storm Bros over here in the Age of Sigmar. So, strangely enough, there are pages and pages and pages of different Stormcast Eternals of all kinds of different flavors that you can run in this game. A lot. Pages, it just keeps going. So I went through basically all of them and tried to figure out what was going to be the easiest and cheapest, and I came across Sequitors. So the Sequitors, you get 10 models, but you can really only use 5 of them within 1,000 points, because they're not cheap model to model wise as far as the points costs. So you get 10 models, but yeah, you can only really run 5. And they cost $60. So $60 gets you the Sequitors, it gets you a Sequitor Prime, and then it gets you 4 other Sequitors. And you are, well, I mean, technically you can go further than that. The nice thing that's about that is when you buy 10 models, but you can only use like 5 of them at any given time, is that you can then try different builds within the different loadouts, because they've got hammer and shield, and they've got sword and shield, and they've got hammer and hammer. Well, they don't have hammer and hammer, but you know what I'm saying. Within the realm of overall Stormcast, there's lots of different builds, and they all have slightly different point costs, so you kind of mess with it a little bit, because, you build 5 of them one way, and then you have these other 5 to kind of like, replace and do all that kind of stuff. So that's really actually quite nice. Some people here are going to probably say, yeah, but what about the Retributors or the Decimators, Uncle Adam? They're only $58 instead of $60. And then you only get 5 models, so you don't have those extra ones that you feel bad about not painting and not building. If you buy a pack of either Retributors or Decimators, you can't make it 1,000 points. It's too many points for 5 models. So if you take one out and just run 4, then you are kind of wildly under 1,000 points by about 195 points in some situations, or something like that. Well, or actually more. But so yeah, your situation is that if you buy those slightly cheaper boxes of either the Retributors or the Decimators, which are also cool models, don't get me wrong, you can't use those in Warcry at 5 models. So it's a granularity issue. I can take 4 models and be undercosted. I can take 5 models and be overcosted. But if you go with the Sequitors, they are slightly cheaper enough that you can make more. You can make 5 models and have it be real close to 1,000 points. So take a look at that. And yeah, that's one box, $60. last but not least, we kind of end on a downer. I mean, not that the Sylvaneth are a downer. They're cool, tree people and all that kind of stuff. It's just that there's really only one option for cheap and easy, and that is buy yourself a box of dryads. And you basically are going to build one of them as a branch nymph, which there's not actually really like a specific, like this is, you kind of just basically pick one of them and go, that guy with the extra head or whatever, or the arm up, that guy's the branch nymph. But there you go. That's your leader. And then you build basically 12 other dryads out of that box, and boom, you're done. $45. So it's cheap. And if you like trees, Lord knows they're easy to paint. You basically kind of prime them brown and do some dry brushing and pick out some details. You can crank out these 13 dryads real fast. And $45 is a good low price. But they're a little samey, whatever. But that's your option. Everything else from the dryads, there's other stuff that's in the book that you can pick from. It's just everything else is a lot more points. And so you end up buying 2 boxes or maybe 3 boxes. So that's kind of where you're at. So there you have it. And just to reiterate again, this is not necessarily the most effective build by far. Lord knows I'm the wrong guy to ask about what a good strategic, effective build is in tournament play, because I don't care at all. I've never been one of those kind of players. Nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that's not how I play. I like to play narratively, and I like to have a good time with the weird little people I push around on the table. If you're looking for the pro strat, not here, sadly. Not even sadly. But if you're looking for how can I get in by buying basically 1 box, maybe a box and a blister, and as cheap as possible, that's what this list is for. So if you're interested in playing the good guys, such as they are, within Warcry, take a look at some of these kits. And if you're looking to take 2 20s and walk down to the shop and come back home with an inexpensive and fun little list, look at some skinks. Those are the winners of this particular episode. But otherwise, yeah, there's decent choices in here for how to get in easily and cheaply. And the benefit to all of these lists, like I said in the last one when I did Chaos, again, Pachow. I don't know if that one will work, actually. I don't know if I can do 2 Pachows to the same thing in the same video. So anyway, the benefit is that if you build this list to start and you really start enjoying it, you can kind of pick up some other stuff and start kind of slaying, putting it in there and kind of moving things around, make yourself a bunch of different lists within a single bigger roster, and have a lot of fun with it. But this is how you start.